Yes, ma'am. That is true. Now, let's talk about the business side of agriculture, like acquiring land, plots of land, acres of land. I did hear you state that you have almost 200 acres of land. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have 160, and I've got my eye targeted on some additional land that used to belong to my great grandfather that I will acquire at a premium. But also, we're looking to expand in my community because my family alone has over about 1,500 acres among all of my, and these are distant cousins, but we all live here together and have land that's next to each other. And there's other land here in Alabama area that is very inexpensive currently that we definitely need to get our hands on and start growing food and having food come out of the black belt. So yes.
So, with that, could you give us, for those who may not know the process that it takes in order to acquire land, and also could you, get off into some of the crops that you are growing and how does that look on the business side of agriculture?
Okay, I'm going to say this before I get off into the big land acquisition because some of that may be a little bit out of reach currently in our mindset. Let's just start with where we are. In Atlanta, my daughter lives in Atlanta, so I'm there frequently, and I do have business over there. And there's a huge organization called the Federation of Southern Cooperatives that really helps with uh, holding on to ancestral land, also helping with gardens, urban gardens. So I say, let's start here. Urban gardens. There's usually land that's sitting around in our community that is lots or whatever. It's usually controlled by the county or the city or municipality. And a lot of times, if we knew how we could get access to that land and turn it into urban gardens to feed just the local community, I'll start there because one of the things I promote is organic. And I am in the process in about 2 weeks of becoming certified organic. And I'll kind of go into that because that's another level of profitability. So I'll say this starting with feeding ourselves, if we all had plots of land, even just growing in gardens around us, we could feed ourselves and also feed others. And here's the point everything costs from labor to seeds to soil to all the components. And somebody has to pay for that. I know even the folks in my area who are on Social Security, who are on SNAP, and I take every form of payment. We will pay for food, especially if it's good, healthy food. There's just certain foods that we eat. In my area, I grow the collards, turnips, mustards right now, carrots, beets, radishes. We got onions. I have just put in a bunch of sugar cane I got from FAMU down in Florida. This year we'll be growing rice. I grow almost a variety. I literally grow a grocery store's produce section off of my farm because while I do have other land that I'll grow like a monocrop, like maybe it's all tomatoes or all whatever. Right now, I'm trying to make sure that my community eats. So I grow a variety. The next expansion is going to be this 14-acre greenhouse, all greenhouse undercover because I know they put things in our air like chemtrails and chemicals and things like that. And the soil, being able to protect that, I know I need to put it undercover. So that's my project that I actually have some grants out on. But I happen to have sort of quasi inherited the land I have because I started asking questions, which I really implore a lot of us to ask questions. If you came from the South or you knew your family had land, most of that land is just sitting and nobody's doing anything with it, almost not even paying the taxes on it. I literally am sitting on 2 plots of family land that I pay the taxes every year because I don't know where the family members are. And if it goes to anyone, it's going to end up coming to me in a minute. So I'm going to find out who they are and make them an offer to purchase it. But there are things we can do just by inquiring, getting close to the land. I know many of us don't want to leave the city, don't want to move out of our area, never thought about it. I never thought about being in Alabama. But this is where the blessing was. This is where the creativity is for me. And this is where my path forward is to be able to pretty much go around the world and do the other things I want to do. And sometimes we have to open our mind and not be afraid of the thoughts that we have around things we're uncomfortable with, because a lot of times that's that creative juice, our ancestors, whatever you believe in, the creator, God, the Holy Spirit, for me, to uh, find my purpose and then walk in that because that is where our greatest success will happen. I bought the land, didn't know what I was going to do with it, had a consulting assignment as a CFO, went to Philadelphia for almost 8 months. Around this time of the year, it was November in 2021. I went and worked with a client and stayed there. And while I was there working with them, I kept thinking about the land that I had just bought. It was the initial 10 acres. And I went on YouTube and found this thing called this farm called Never Sink Farms in the Catskills in New York, and it advertised making $350,000 off an acre and a half. And I thought, oh wow, well I got 10, so surely if he can do it in New York, I can surely do it here in Alabama. I bought this course for like $3,500, and it was everything from beginning to end on how to not only put in infrastructure, which I had to do everything from wells to electricity, all that was nothing was here, to putting in greenhouses and putting in rows, and how do you market, and how do you go to the farmers market, and all those things. And it's a course that's like a lifetime course. I go back and I review it, but that kind of got my mind open and got me open to doing this. And then when I came back, I connected with other farmers in my area. I wasn't ready to bring anyone on my land because it was just all trees. It was woods. It hadn't been lived on in like, I don't know, maybe 50, 75 years. It was just sitting here vacant, full of trees. So I started helping other folks on their farms. And then that turned into a cooperative, finding out that farmers here grow collectively. So we all come together, we grow on our own land, we bring our produce together, and we sell it wholesale or whatever. So I'm saying this could be as small or as large as we can imagine. Right now, I'm started an organic co-op because I grow organically with other organic farmers. Our medical marijuana facility here is organic. The men who started this facility, this organic medical marijuana, they were farmers growing produce before they started marijuana or cannabis. And so we have a collective co-op. And now things like that are going to put in millions of dollars to bring on additional farmers, making funds accessible to those who want to farm, funding not only here domestically, but reaching out around the world, and being collaborative. Because one thing we have to do as a people is we need to take care of home, but we have to understand we need to build a global community of folks who are going to move with us, because this isn't just a US problem, it's a global problem. And we need to, one, understand our rightful place in this country and around the world, and take up that place and lead and thrive in that space. Because when you look at the HBUs, and the minds and a lot of the creativity and innovation, it came from us out of these universities. And so we need to make sure that we continue the progress, because those genes are with us. We already have that DNA. We just need to allow ourselves to let go and let it flow.
Okay. And you also have produced wine, herbal teas, and things of that nature as well, right?
Yes, it's a part of, so because I am, risk averse. So my farm, let me just sort of explain this. Anything that's grown out of the soil, it's on Magruder Farms. Once it's bought by another one of my entities, I have a muscadine vineyard, an orchard. That's where the wine making was birthed out of, because my grandfather used to, when I was a little girl in Florida, when we go visit him in the summertime, kind of towards the fall, he had these muscadines hanging from like these trellises. He would pick us up and we'd pick all these muscadines, and I'd eat until my mouth was itching and I could hardly eat because it was just so rich. And so when I found out I had natural muscadines growing on my land here in Alabama, I thought, oh my gosh. Then I started, taking a notice, and so I started an orchard with muscadines. Well, that is a wine, an American grape that only grows in America. And so we started with muscadine wines. Then I started partnering with other farmers who had blueberries and peaches and other fruit, and they grow it organically. And so I basically buy their fruit in addition to my muscadines. And now we are in the winemaking business. So that is called Black Warrior Winery. And out of that brand, we don't only make wines, but we also make teas. Because obviously, I believe in the word of God, and herbs are for the healing of the land, healing of the nations. And that's a part which includes hemp and cannabis. All those are herbs for our health and healing. Most of the pharmaceutical products that are synthetic come from the herbs that were growing in the soil. And when I started looking around at what was growing on this land, I found over 100 and some natural herbs for everything from sexual potency to psychedelics to things that are for hypertension, high blood pressure, cancer agents, acetaminophen for pain. All of that's still in the soil and it's coming up around it, but we just don't see it. We step on it and they call it weeds to keep us out of focus. And once I realized it, I started making teas out of it. And I realized there are people around me who need this tea. And so that's how the teas were birthed. And so I have this whole, even elderberries. During COVID, that was a big product to buy elderberry products. Well, I have naturally a whole elderberry orchard behind my cabin. So we harvest that every fall and make our elderberry syrups and teas from that. So that's sort of what birthed these. And the point is, I just look at what I have in my hand, what's around me, because everything we have around us is what other folks are making money off of. I brand it because I learned that they're being with Harley Davidson, one of the largest, most well-known brands around the world, that bar and shield. And but I do it holistically, I do it ethically, and I do it transparently. So I have no problem sharing the what, how, when. We do what we do because we don't want to be the only ones. We're looking at growing communities of us in order to build generational wealth, to grow millionaires and billionaires together and not leave anybody behind.